let's answer this question real quickly. Since our guy Wes isn't here to enjoy the Timberwolves being eliminated, Uncle Manny asks, Kevin, I'll leave this one to you first since Wes is your guy. Is Karl-Anthony Towns overrated? Uncle Manny says yes. Kevin, what's your answer to that?
Before I get into this, when Uncle Manny first texts that, Wes goes, "Oh my gosh, are you serious?" So he's definitely
Hey, Wes.
He's hurt.
But to answer your question, I wouldn't say he's overrated, man. Like I believe Toddy might have said, he was just hurt out there, and we didn't really get a chance to see him.
It's all
Well,
good.
I will say that I think Blue definitely thinks that that Cat is overrated. Jaevon, what were you gonna say?
I think Cat is a number 2, and he thinks he's a number 1. I feel like he's not okay. So he was hurt, like he missed like 50 games, 55 games this year, and Ant's kind of just been like, all right, I pretty much willed this team to a playoff playing berth, and then he kind of came along and was just kind of trying to play the last like 10, 15 games of the season while Ant was kind of there, kind of just making the ship kind of float steadily. And I only think that they've been to the playoffs once when it was just Cat. But that was when they had Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler was on the team. So we have yet to see like a Cat team, like Cat carry a team to the playoffs. I don't think that's ever happened. So the other times when they made the playoffs, it was Jimmy Butler on the team and Anthony Edwards were on the team. It's never just been Cat, okay, I'm going to lead this team to the playoffs. So I think Cat's a number 2. He's not a 1 anymore. I feel like that ship has kind of sailed him. So he has to go. I feel like, I don't know if he can kind of have the self-awareness, presence of mind to be like, all right, Ant, this is your team. We're going to kind of play through you, and this is going to be the guy. Like, he's getting paid like he's the number 1 player on the team. He's getting $60 million, I think, in the next year or two, a year. So that might be a contract where the Timberwolves might be willing to unload that contract and find a team where it'd be like, hey, who wants Karl-Anthony Towns for $60 million? Or they kind of just bite that bullet and figure it out as they go. But to answer the question, I'll probably have to say yes.
Okay, and Wes is weighing in. He says, nah, he was hurt the whole year, didn't really get the full Cat/Rudy mix, so the playoffs was just rough. And Wes says that last year, Karl-Anthony Towns carried us and played 74 games.
Simple. I agree with Wes. I'm not going to lie. To chip in real quick on this,
I
disagree with my uncle. I don't believe he's overrated. I think he's rated where he's at. I think I've seen the interviews, like you said, Vaughn, actually, of Cat and Edwards, in the same press conference room, and it seems like, he's a young buck, but he gives him the head nod in terms of this is going to be the alpha dog here, and this is going to be the guy. Not saying that I feel like he's like you said, I feel like he's going to have to be a number 2 on this team, but he has number 1 attributes and talent. So kind of like, to be honest with you, like an Anthony Davis type of situation where like you might have, even though LeBron's obviously a different role than Ant at the moment, but as in like you have a number 2 that could have number 1 moments, but you also have a number 1 guy. So in Anthony Edwards. So I feel like they know what they got to go going forward. I don't think he's overrated. I feel like he's rated enough. I just feel like maybe like Wes said, due to his injuries this year, I feel they haven't got the whole experience like I mentioned too, like him and Rudy to really figure that out. So I feel like if you give him a little more time to figure it out and, he just gets more playoff experience, I feel like he'll fit the bill that maybe everyone's saying that maybe – I don't know. When overrated, I never said – no, I don't think no one ever said he's top 10. I don't think who's been mentioned in the top 10 conversation like that. I think he's been sniffing around top 15. So I've been thinking like he's rated where he needs to be, and maybe he dropped a little bit this year due to injury. But I feel like talent-wise, he's always tried to be in top 10. But me personally, I feel like he's always been in the top 15.
Well, I would say that he's overrated because – let's not forget, like he was drafted first overall, and he was drafted to be the guy there in Minnesota. And why did they ultimately have the number 1 pick again? Because he wasn't the guy. And
you can say that about any player. You can even say that about De'Aaron. There's years that we got top picks, and then he's the guy still.
Never won
because we never got lucky like that, Kev. But like we got 2. We got 2 or 3.
Thank you, Kevin. And that's the main point of what I'm trying to get at. And I completely understand all the tragedy that
They were
Karl-Anthony
supposed to go
Towns
second.
has dealt with in his life, especially in those pivotal years. And what Anthony Edwards, he was drafted first overall in what? It was 2021 when he got drafted first overall. And that was
LaMelo
like,
draft, yeah.
and that was right in the midst of or no, was that
2020?
2020?
They did it at home. They did draft at home.
So yeah, so it was the draft in 20. It was in November 2020. It was so late in that year, right? Is right after the bubble. Am I right? Yeah, remember it correctly. So and so that was in 2020. As we know, it's well documented that Karl-Anthony Towns lost his mom to COVID in 2020, and he nearly lost his dad, and a lot of his family were like not doing well, and so he dealt with a lot personally, and so I feel like a lot of us gave him that pass. But how much longer are we going to give him that pass until we hold him to the expectations that we once had for him? Because to me, I would say he's overrated because based on the expectations that I had for Karl-Anthony Towns coming into his
What did you have?
career,
Winning championship?
I had him being a perennial all-star. Yeah, he's made a couple all-star
Top 5
teams.
center.
Yeah,
He said he's the best shooting big of all time.
Yeah, he says he's the best shooting big of all time. And so to me, I would say he's overrated just based on expectations. If we lowered that bar, we lowered those expectations, like Jaevon was saying, of him being a number 2 and him being the Robin to Anthony Edwards Batman, then I would say he's great.
And a lot of players, there's a lot, like Paul George came out and said, like, I'm better when I'm the second best player, or like the Robin. There's a lot of players can't do that. It's a pride, ego / thing. And a lot of players are like, they want to come in and be the guy. And Paul George has been the guy. We've seen what that looks like when he was in Indiana. But then, you kind of see him going places like going to OKC, playing with Russ, and then ultimately getting traded to the Clippers, playing with Kawhi. So he feels like he's better as a 2. I think there's a lot of players in this league who are probably better 2s than they are 1s, but they kind of are just, that's not what they're going to kind of mold their game after. They feel like that. Everyone feels like they're the guy at one point in time. So I think that's kind of where Cat is at a crossroads of being, all right, there's this young buck here, and he comes in, and then all of a sudden we just make the playoffs. So I feel like there needs to be, someone has to come up and say, hey, this is Ant's team, and we kind of all got to fall in place there. And this could maybe lead to friction down the road by saying, hey, like, maybe we have to trade Cat, offload a contract, and probably get something in return, maybe a wing defender or a wing type of player. I wouldn't say because Cat is.
You want to trade Cat for a bag of chips for a wing defender?
I'm not saying like a wing defender,
Hey man, this guy scored 54, guys. I ain't gonna lie, this hit a bad year. I feel like we're shitting on him right now. He had an injury. He missed like the majority of the year. He played him playing the playoffs.
He's an all-star player when healthy. So I'm saying you could get another all-star back for him. But I'm saying the way that his contract is set up, it's gonna be tough because Cat is gonna be making a lot of money in the distant future.
Karl-Anthony Towns makes number 1 money, but he's not a number 1.
That's hey.
Point blank period. I mean, I feel like that's as simply as I can put it. The West, if I'm wrong, tell me why I'm wrong. But to me, he has everything in front of him that dictates you are the number 1 guy. But yet this Anthony Edwards guy, whose favorite sport is football, came along and he's better than you. He is a better leader. Why are we pitting them
against each other? They're supposed to do better together.
Because that's what we do. Because Gary, that is
making
what
no
we
sense.
do in
I don't understand
media.
we bagging on a guy who had an injured year and last year showed up. I don't know. I guess you're telling me I'm living in the moment. Injured year last year he showed up, so I don't understand. But okay, give up on Ant. You hear this? These guys giving up on you, bro.
Not in the playoffs.
Nah, my bad. Not Ant. My bad. Towns. But I think Towns is gonna come back. I think Cat is gonna come back next year and prove y'all wrong. I'm not gonna lie.
And he might gonna be proving me wrong.
He's gonna be proving wrong. He's gonna be putting up big numbers and dominating the league. And I feel like he's gonna have a great moment. Simple. That's what I think. I think he's gonna be like top 3 center next year. Literally, you write this down, Shaun. I think he'll be top 3 center next year.
Ooh,
okay.
Don't write that down.
And I think Ant's going to be great too. He's going to be the number 1. And I do think Ant's going to be the number 1. But I think
you don't want to be tagged to that, brother.
No, yeah, he's in it.
Hey guys, do you remember when?
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I love Sabonis, but I think he's going to be better than Sabonis. Maybe not his role, But he gonna
Someone,
be
someone play this clip for Sabonis so he
Hey.
can come find Garry.
Feel it.
yeah, sure.
Send it to him.
I mean, Uncle Manny makes this point too. He said, "Did he really need to miss that much time for his injury? No. To me, I'm not going to get involved.
You wouldn't know his injury like that. Come on, now. He ain't been like he not a player that has that type of. He been sitting out for random reasons. No, he ain't come across as the person who be sitting out for random reasons.
So Garry, let me make sure that I get this accurate because I don't want you to tell me later that I misquoted you. You said, did you say Karl-Anthony Towns will be a top 3 center or he is a top?
He will be a top 3 center by the end of next year.
So he's not right now.
No, due to injury and not playing enough this year, he's not eligible for that conversation. But next year, I believe at the end of the year, we'll be looking at Karl-Anthony Towns as a top 3 center, and I think we'll probably say Jokic, Embiid, and Towns.
So let me ask you this:
y'all rolling your eyes right now, but y'all can see a path now. We act like we're having depth in center here.
I can't see.
I don't say that it's crazy, but I just want to distinguish. Like how are we determining how someone is a top 3 center? Are we basing it strictly
Shaun,
off
you
of
think
stats?
Embiid and Jokic
Because
are top 2?
Yes.
Okay, then there's gonna be pretty clear cut, buddy. If it's 3, simple.
Well, I was asking how are we going to distinguish it? Because Wes is saying politics over stats because he wants to show you stats when it could be meaningless stats. Like everyone wanted to say that De'Aaron Fox's numbers meant nothing until the Kings made the playoffs. Now the stats become meaningful. But I mean, how are we justifying that he is?
They got 3 All-NBA spots.
Hey.
Thank you, Kevin. All right.
Did All NBA ever come out yet?
There's been players who haven't made All NBA and literally have won awards. So I don't know. I think it's part of our stats and eye test, bro. That's why I go by. We're going by stats and eye test. You're going to know when he's dropping 50 if he's going to be top 3 center or not.
50.
Stats plus eye test equals dropping 50.
He had 50 in a regular season game last year, yes.
Yes. And that's
all
not
right,
easy
Garry.
to do.
Hey, Garry, I got you right there. It has been documented in the notebook, and we shall.
I got you, Wes, bro. You just put me on the now. I'm for sure room for Timberwolves next year.
You
got a Timberwolves guy on here now.
Timberwolves Nation is rocking with Garry right now.
Hey, Kev, you remember when I rocked with the Timberwolves for like a solid week? How did that turn out for me? Not very well.
Yeah,
good luck, Garry. Have fun with that. Have fun with that. I learned my lesson. You can too. It's okay.